school committee, joint school committee meeting to order. It is 5:31. The first item on the agenda is I'd like to turn over to Councilman Brian Whedon to do the opening prayer.
If we could all please rise. We're going to say the prayer for every time, so if some of you know it in the language, you can follow along. Mana wana nikona hachik. Katabatanamu wachi wami kiakwasanish. Katabatanamu wachi kisa. Katabatanamu wachi anakwasa. Katabatanamu wachi aki. Katabatanamu wachi sipuash. Katabatanamu wachi katahanash. Katabatanamu wachi wami awaasa. Katabatanamu wachi wami natongwasa. Ananama anian namana wipi wanika. Ananama anian asina wipi sompwak. Creator and ancestors, I thank you for all things. I thank you for the sky. I thank you for the stars. I thank you for the land. I thank you for the rivers. I thank you for the oceans. I thank you for all creatures. I thank you for all of my relations. Help us to see only what is good. Help us to do only what is right. Home. Thank you.
Thank you. You want to stay standing for the
Can
pledge?
you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So thank you again for allowing us to have this joint meeting in the beautiful Tribal Center.
Welcome again. Doesn't seem possible. It's been 3 years. Yeah.
So the next item on our agenda is the recognition of Mashpee Public School retirees. We have some great retirees here, as well as some certificates from the State House to read. So if you'll allow me that patience. It's from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the House of Representatives citation. Be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to Deb Vaughn in recognition of your 15 years of dedicated service to the Mashpee schools and our entire community. Enjoy your retirement. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all endeavors. Given this 22nd day of May 2019 at the State House, Boston, Massachusetts, and it's signed by Robert Egg DeLeo, the Speaker of the House, and David T. Vieira, the State Representative. We're gonna go through all of them, then I'll bring everybody up for pictures. The next one is for Diane Quiet for 21 years of dedicated service to the Mashpee Public Schools. For Greta McHugh for 13 years of dedicated service to the Mashpee schools and the entire community. For Susan Glidden for 22 years of dedicated service to the Mashpee schools. For Diane Littleton for 20 years of dedicated service to the Mashpee schools. For Ann Colantuno for 15 years of dedicated service to the Mashpee Public Schools. Lon Dexter for 19 years of dedicated service to the Mashpee Public Schools. And last but not least, Neil O'Donnell for more than 18 years of dedicated service to the Mashpee Public Schools. So I'd like to invite the 4 members that are actually retirees that are here to come up in the center table for pictures if they have any family members, and they receive some well-deserved gifts.
You just did.
We actually were going to have you stand so we can get that beautiful thing.
Oh, go on down.
No, stay right here. Just scooch over there.
Okay.
Excuse me, congratulations.
Okay.
You deserve it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations to you all.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
Take a picture or two. And I know we have a couple of friends and spouses here. I just want to say on behalf of the Mashpee Public Schools that these people have done, and as well as the others who are not here, have done amazing work for the children of Mashpee. And they go above and beyond consistently, and our children would not be where they are today and go on to successful lives without these individuals who, on a day-to-day basis, make such a huge difference. And from a colleague point of view, we're going to greatly miss all of them. We really enhance our environment. You should play these and put them in the gallery. All right. Together. 1, 2, 3. Oh, no, my fingers. Thank you.
All right, thank you. She's the best.
On item number 3 right now.
These were a lot of retirees.
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's great.
I was wondering the same.
Mr. Chairman, before they, because I know they might not stick around.
Yes, sir.
I just want to say something really quick. So you know, from a committee standpoint, you know, I love what you guys, all of you have done for Mashpee schools, but I also want to thank you on a personal note, because I know my children have been, one way or form, involved with each and every one of you. So I want to thank you for that as well, and you're greatly going to be missed. So, thank you.
Greta.
Introduction.
Oh, before you, yeah, good idea. All right, so the next item on our agenda is the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribal Representative Roxanne Brown and Cameron Greendeer.
Before we jump there, we'll
Introductions?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Introductions, I was just trying to cue you, but you were very intent doing your job as a chair. So we just want to start off with introductions to ourselves. I'm Secretary Askew of the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe, and I don't know where you want to move forward from here.
Waniki Sak Natasuis Mosquita, Nutamas Masipia. Good day, my native name is Mosquita Behar. I'm from Mashpee. Brian Whedon, I'm a tribal council member.
Hello, David Whedon. I'm also a tribal council member. I also serve with the tribe as the interim TIPO for the Tribal Historic Preservation Program with the tribe.
Walikisa, Tasuis, Noiskwa, Ka Winnie, Nutamas Masipia. Good day, my name is Winnie, also known as Blue Girl, and I'm from Mashpee. Also tribal councilwoman. Thank you.
Winnie Kisak. I'm Roxanne Brown. I'm the Education Director here at the Tribe. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Cameron Greendeer. I'm from the Ho-Chunk Nation, but I work here at the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe as the NYCP manager. And thank you very much for having me.
Kanipiomu Nitom Pa'ak, Natasuis Jennifer. Welcome to you, friends. My name is Jennifer, and I'm the Language Department Director, and I'm also the Director for the Wampanoag Language Reclamation Project.
Waniki Sak. I'm Francie Doughton, Executive Assistant to the Chairman of the Tribe.
Again, thank you, thanks for the introductions and for allowing us to come in here and do these joint meetings with the collaboration and the exchange of information is very, very important to us, and I know it's important to you guys too, to
Yes.
take care of all the kids of Mashpee, including the native kids, so it's very important to us.
Thank you.
Anybody?
Do you want to do introductions?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure.
Start, Kathy?
I am Kathy Lighthole, Secretary to the school committee.
I'm Skylar Rimple. I'm the student liaison.
Nice
Hi,
guy.
I'm Hope Yanscom. I'm the Assistant Superintendent in Mashpee.
I'm Patty DeBoer, the superintendent in Mashpee.
Chris Santos, school committee member, and I just want to say I'm glad to be back here again, and thank you very much for having us.
Welcome
Great
again.
opportunity.
Nicole Bartlett, ditto, also school committee member.
And Jeff Gorman, also
Yeah.
school committee member, very, very excited to be here.
Welcome. Welcome again, thank you for
Yes,
coming.
welcome.
Thank you very much.
Could I just point out in the audience a couple of people that maybe make sure you all
Of
know who they
course,
are?
yeah.
So, over here is Paul Lavelle, he's the principal of the Coombs School, pre-K
Paul.
to 2. Mark Alstrachis, principal of Mashpee Middle High School, grades 7 through 12. Mary Kate O'Brien, Quashnet School principal,
Mary
3 to
Kate.
6. And Dr. Jamie Curley is our director of special education. And then we also have Kelly Fina is a Spanish teacher at the high school, and Tim Rumberger is the World Language Department chair and a teacher of several languages.
Welcome, everyone.
Hello. Thanks for coming.
This would be a good time, I think, just to present the presidency.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to. Okay, so we wouldn't come without bearing some gifts, so we wanted to once again, as a thank you, present the council, the secretary on behalf of the council, a picture of the
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Those are last year's graduates.
last year's graduates.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And some of us plan on being there this Saturday. Look forward to being there.
That'd be awesome.
Oh. Sure.
Sorry.
Okay, you got it.
Wait, one more, sorry. And a caution now, Trish. I know.
First two are free.
Thank you. Thank you very much again.
And then we have some great items that can be found at the Ilby or Mashpee store as well. Just for having some fun. So,
All right.
Nice recyclable grocery bags, fill the
Thank you.
local grocery stores with.
Yeah, exactly.
And a magnet for your car.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. You're getting good use out of those coffee mugs from last year. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Appreciate that.
All right, so I told you I'd mess up at least once this meeting, so that's over with. So we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is introduction for Roxanne Brown and Cameron Greendeer for their update.
Thank you, Habitash. What I'd like to do is just thank you all for having us be a part of your system and your including us in the day-to-day activities in the Mashpee Public Schools. We are appreciative of being part of your partnership group. Yesterday and today, we completed activities with the fifth grade classes. Wholly successful, even just walking around asking the kids, just bright, talkative, appreciative, interested, and it was so rewarding after the ladies ran around to try to set up on time and get things going. We're a small unit, and oftentimes other departments are indisposed to kind of collaborate and assist. I think I just want to suggest that in the future, and we would love to be able to do these types of activities in the future, and especially because it's a part of the curriculum. I know the fifth grade teachers received a mini grant to be able to assist with this. If the Indian Education Program possibly could maybe include that in their budget for the fifth grade to be able to have that type of activity. It was wholly rewarding, and I think it was also rewarding for us because we realize what we have, but we often don't allow our people to get out there and interact, and especially with youth. So thank you for that opportunity for a number of reasons. I'd like to thank you also for allowing us to have Brian and Lindsay as part of our Cape Cod Community College partnership. There's a team, including Linda Coombs and John Hanlon, that are working on developing the dual enrollment Native American history course. And so we're hoping that it's fruitful and productive, and it benefits all the children at Mashpee Middle High School. You're so generous. We notified you of the meeting, and the next day you had people there, so we appreciate that, Patty. I'd like to say, as our education department grows, and it will, and we'll have more latitude and more flexibility with our funding and programming, we will continue to approach the school and the parent committee to see if we can't assume that grant, and also continue to try to negotiate for those things that you refuse to give up. So we're going to keep at it. We think we can be an asset to the school by incorporating that with the rest of our programming. So we'll keep that up. And I keep bugging LaToya. She walks around when she sees me. And lastly, the Native Youth Community Project, which is the project that Cameron oversees. I really would like to thank you for your responsiveness and involving us in, I know in some of the interventions that you have with students, whether it be attendance or academics or keeping them in school, we're making small strides and we really appreciate it. We really have to reflect on the work that we do and be sure we don't take on too much and have poor quality, but we really do have a very talented and expert minimal staff, and we want to continue to grow that partnership and be available for our youth and the Mashpee Public School. So Katabatash, and I look forward to next year.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you again for working with me, all the staff, school committee. This is my third month into this new position, and I enjoy it thoroughly. It's very rewarding, and it's also good feelings to give back to my community. And some of the kids always ask me why I do things the way I do them. It's because someone was always looking out for me when I was younger too. And I understand the Native students that we have to balance, there's a sense of balance that of who we are, our identities, plus balance everything in the classroom. So it's two different worlds, but I try to express that to the children. I shouldn't say children, I work at high school, so young adults. And the partnership meetings I just got involved with, and those are, the first one was very, very informative. I enjoyed it. I think I had some great ideas, and I hope to really get back on that with the Native American Awareness Week in November. So it's just an idea right now, but I think we have some good ideas coming up. I also have some programming coming up for the summer, just some finalizations with some of the contractors, and we'll have some cultural activities, fishing, hunting probably in the fall. So just to give you guys a heads up. But again, thank you very much for cooperating, working with me. If you need to reach out to me anytime, please don't hesitate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody have anything to add?
No, I just want to say that I continue to see sort of this partnership growing in maybe ways that we don't expect, but it's really so valued what we've been able to do these last 2 years, and I think we're really starting to see fingers of it filter down to where we most want it to be, which is in the classrooms with our teachers and students. So,
Okay. Okay, the next item on the agenda is an update on Makayasuk Wiku, the Children's House, with Jennifer Weston. Hope I
Thank
did
you.
not
Yes,
mess up the pronunciation too
that was
badly.
great. You do well with coaching. So I'm actually going to start by updating you on all the activities that our language department has been engaged with throughout the school year. So we have a full-time teaching staff of 7, but we have employed 5 folks within the Mashpee Public Schools throughout this academic year, 3 contractors and 2 of our full-time teachers. So those are folks you've probably seen in the hallways, like Tracy Kelly and Linda Coombs and Natana Greendeer, and also the famous Miss Tootie. But I just wanted to give you an update on all the amazing activities that we've undertaken this year, primarily with the new U.S. Department of Education grant that we were awarded last fall with support and an MOU and letters of support from Patty's office, so we really appreciate that. But we've essentially fundraised to provide all the services that we have to the tribal students in the public schools. So I'll just walk you through the grid that I provided you copies of in advance. So we've facilitated lunch bunches at both the Coombs and Quashnet schools for a total of 33 weeks, serving 65 students for a total of 276 instructional hours. We've also facilitated a brand new after-school program this year at both Coombs and Quashnet, so 2 separate sites, and that served 40 children, and we delivered a total of 88 instructional hours, basically Tuesday through Thursday after school. In addition, we offered Wampanoag Pasek Kanis, Wampanoag language levels 1 and 2 at the middle and high school for all 36 weeks of the school year. We had 10 students enrolled who received a total of 320 instructional hours. And I want to give a special shout out to Mr. Balistracci and Mr. Remberger, who helped us with a recruitment enrollment event at the high school this spring. And we had 27 mostly tribal youth, but also some non-tribal youth who came to that session. So they got a chance to chat with current students in these 2 classes, also to meet with one of our linguists, Tracy Kelly, and with our main language teacher at the middle and high school, Melanie Roderick. So we were really excited to see that level of interest, and we hope that we'll be able to maybe triple the enrollment in those middle and high school classes. We're also offering Wampanoag Level 3 this fall, so we'll have 3 full-time world language credit bearing courses. So we're super excited for that growth. The last thing, I think Mr. Remberger is going to update you on this, but we're really thrilled to be included in the new prospects for a seal of biliteracy. So next year is the first year that we'll have students who will have completed 3 levels of Wampanoag language instruction. And we're hopeful that some of those students will have the opportunity to graduate with the biliteracy seal that notes their language proficiency in Wampanoag language. And we're really looking forward to that pilot opportunity because there are so few Native American students in the entire country who have the opportunity to graduate with proficiency in their native language. So there's about 55 to 60 Indigenous language schools that we collaborate with who run immersion programs, so teaching entirely in their languages, whether it's Cherokee or Blackfeet or Mohawk or Wampanoag. But most of those schools are serving younger language learners. So it's been really exciting to have the opportunity to offer daily instruction for high school students. And that leads me to an update for you on the growth in our own immersion school here that's supported by the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe and the 3 other member tribes that we serve. So there's a little bit more information about the Wampanoag Language Reclamation Project in the brochures that I gave to you. So we serve 4 tribes, but Mashpee has been incredibly generous with us. They've provided space, so 2 classrooms for our language school. And this fall, we added our first cohort of grade 1 students. We had 2 children working with us every day as first graders. And we've been successful in raising funding for additional teacher training. So we have 1 teacher this summer who will be going on to get her Montessori teacher credential for lower elementary. So we do plan to grow up to grade 4 in the coming academic years, and probably close to double our student population. So right now we serve 25 children, preschool through grade 1, and we're hoping to grow to about 45 children over the next several years as we expand our grade levels up to grade 4. Again, with tribal council support here, we'll be adding a modular classroom out adjacent to the building, so we're really excited to get that underway this summer. But again, we always want to continue our partnerships with the public schools because the majority of tribal children are in the public schools, and we've served 75 tribal children in the public schools this year. So I'm happy to answer any questions if folks have any about our growth plan or any of the programming that we offered this year.
Any questions?
I'm good. Great job explaining.
Yeah. Thanks, Jennifer.
Yeah, I don't have any, thank you.
I want to just thank Jen, I think it was Jen and Natana, who also provided the PD class for high school staff this year. And I participated last year, but I've heard only great things about this year's course, so thank you.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we've done 8 sessions and we have 2 more to go. And through that opportunity, we've been able to purchase about 11 native authored titles that we've worked to distribute to various teachers in the English department, the history department. We also were able to use some of our Department of Education funding to purchase books for the English department and for the tribe here for the summer reading list for Mashpee Middle and High School. So I think we've included 4 native authors this year on the reading list. So we're hopeful that some of those titles will also be taught in the middle and high school curriculum this fall, and we'll be able to provide some support in purchasing those titles, as well as purchasing some films for inclusion in the school libraries.
That's great.
Awesome. Okay, so we don't have any public comment. We almost had public comment a time ago, but she's moving on. So the next item to talk about is an update from the superintendent on our partnership.
I'm just gonna, you have this in your packet, but. So I just want to quickly highlight some of our things from the second year, which is this past school year. And last summer was when we finalized, it was mostly done on the tribal side, but the informational brochure about the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, which was distributed to all staff, students, and it's currently available in each of our main offices. So that's and it's also on our website, very helpful informational source. We were very happy and thankful that the tribal headquarters here was one of the stops on our new employee orientation, which was in August, and Trish and several other people, I think we divided us up into 3 groups, or maybe that was staff. But you did a great job welcoming our new people, and I think it's really important for anyone new to our system to really start to gain a good understanding of the tribe. Jesse was part of our convocation, very moving, impactful speech to all of the staff. We did rename Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. We've already talked about the 2 levels of language that are offered now at the high school and how we'll continue to grow that. We had our 2nd annual basketball game here on January 11th, very well attended. I can't remember if we lost or won. It was Rockland, wasn't it? Randolph. That was a very tense, yes.
Storybook ending. Yeah.
Yes.
No nails.
Great job.
Yeah, lesson to self, I left slightly before the end of the board. And then I'm home watching it, like whoever was on Twitter, I'm like, oh my goodness, never leave again.
Very, very exciting.
It was very exciting. All 3 staffs have been able to come and have a tour. That's the groups, those groups were large that got divided up into 2 or 3 groups. We did meet with Roxanne and Vivian in order to sort of brainstorm some ideas on how to help individual families. That's right, I forgot about this. How to help individual families who might be having, their children might be experiencing some challenges, and do it in a more supportive way, and make sure we involve the Native support staff that's available for them. The Culture Weeks, I think we have our 3rd one coming up. It's more of a 1-day presentation, but the 2 weeks that have happened at the Coombs School, and thanks to Shawnee Turner, was a main role of that. It was really done so well and individualized for each classroom, and then ended with an assembly at the end of the week. We have developed our draft Portrait of a Graduate, which we're going to talk about tonight and hopefully get your input, but Roxanne was a part of that 25-member team that worked on that project. The tribe has offered to provide before-school childcare for next year as we try to accommodate the needs of families with our later school start time. We will have a bus that stops out on the road there to pick up any of those children. We've already talked about the 10-week professional development class for staff at the high school, done at a time that fits better with their schedule. The new sign that was created by Nathan Mills and Trey Peters for the one that was damaged on Route 130. It was great to be able to have them do that within the school and with the technology that they have available to them. I think it was very meaningful and purposeful for them, and they did such an outstanding job.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you to Emily Pimentel and Colleen Blunt. They're the 2 5th grade teachers that worked to secure some funds for yesterday and today's activities, which I was able to stop by yesterday, and all the kids were engaged. It was really fascinating to watch, and we had beautiful weather, which was outstanding. But I hope that does become an annual tradition for our 5th graders. Some of the staff from the education department at the tribe did attend our PD on March 15th, which was on trauma-informed practices. That hopefully was something that you found very valuable. We did, I know. We're having today's meeting, and then we have our Native American History elective scheduled for next year. I believe it's second semester at the high school, which does have students already planning to take it. Some of the ideas we have for next year is and this is in a draft form, but this was from our last quarterly meeting that we met, but coming up with a display poster that would go in each classroom, possibly with a picture behind it, but this was draft language that Jen had suggested, which we like. In Wampanoag language, we welcome you, and then it would state, the Mashpee Wampanoag welcome you to our traditional homeland. The Mashpee Public Schools recognizes and honors the many generations of Wampanoag people who have lived and been sustained in this territory for more than 10,000 years. And something with a picture. But I think if that's there, we talked about cultural proficiency with our staff, and I just think that gives a good message to all of the Native students who are populating any of our classrooms. And it will also be in hallways as well. We talked about a Mashpee Wampanoag flag that would be flown at our schools. I think it started with a discussion at the high school, but it's something we could do at all of our schools. Continuing with the language expansion, we talked about also at the for this next school year, 1920, we'll be working on our next 3 or 5 year strategic plan, and we want to make sure that we have Mashpee Wampanoag tribal representation in that group as well. One of the things which I did skip over that one was, we talked about this, is whether there can be a tribal scholarship offered to a graduating senior, a Native graduating senior. We do our scholarship night in May, and it would just be really such a wonderful addition to that night to recognize our seniors who are Native, and there, I believe this year, are 14 Native American students graduating. But that's just an idea, and we have to figure out fundraising ideas as well. And we already hit on the fact that there will be Native American authors on the summer reading list, and next year's Native American Awareness Week in November. Does anyone have any thoughts you'd like to share about the work we're trying to accomplish?
I just love how organized you are. I see the meeting for September. I do. I really admire it. It's been a pleasure just kind of watching.
Appreciate you too.
Yeah, I just want to say these are some very great goals that are sustainable, certainly, so I really look forward to, seeing some of these things accomplished.
I appreciate the idea of setting up a Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe Scholarship. That'd be something that we'd like to support, and I'll keep that in mind. If my nephew and I belong to a drum group, and sometimes we raise money and are looking for things to donate back to the community, and that sounds like a really good program to put some money towards. So any way we can help out, we'll try to raise some funds as well.
Yeah, because maybe even the annual basketball game that's here, if the gate receipts
Mhm.
went towards that scholarship.
Yeah, good idea.
That's not a bad thing
Yeah.
to do, because it's very student-focused activity. But whatever we can do to support any fundraising activities you have, we'll make sure we do that.
Thank you.
Jen?
I wanted to add that since we had this discussion, I've looked into a few scholarship opportunities that target Native students who are pursuing careers in language. And we were fortunate with Ms. Vaughn this year to actually host 2 graduating high school seniors as interns in Makaya Sekutu and in our language programs in the schools. So if we have that opportunity again next year, we'll certainly support folks in applying for some funding at the college level. And then I wanted to add just the idea for the poster display and the flag. So as part of our professional development series, we've been meeting over 10 weeks. We just watched the first half of Mashpee 9 last week, had a pretty in-depth discussion around the history of police brutality and its impact on tribal communities, not just here in Mashpee, but also on a nationwide basis. But we've been trying to think strategically in these conversations about what could be some substantive outcomes of these very short 1-hour conversations that we have the opportunity to have with staff for the past 2 springs now. And one of the ideas that we had was a land acknowledgement statement. And so that's what this draft text is, that we would love to have more input from council and other leadership, but we spent one of our sessions talking about the meaning of land acknowledgement statements, and that they're not really just for the tribal students to feel recognized in the space, but it's a way of opening up the mindset of all learners and participants in an educational community, so that they understand as non-tribal members that they're on Wampanoag land, that they're in an indigenous place, because that's something that students often can graduate from top performing high schools everywhere and not understand that America is an indigenous place, and that our communities have lived here for many thousands of years, wherever you are in America. So that's the point of coming up with a very draft, early stage land acknowledgement statement that could be focused or featured prominently in classrooms, but also in entry areas. And Mr. Balistracci had the great idea of potentially flying the tribal flag, because we talked about the ways that we implement culture-based education here in the language school in Makai-Sekwiku, and the way that children see all Wampanoag educators as they enter the building. They hear their language when they're greeted. They see things like the tribal seal and the beautiful wampum and the emblem in the floor as they come in. They see the tribal flags of many nations throughout New England, and these are all ways that they have a stronger connection to their own cultural background, but it also really impacts people who visit us. And so we thought perhaps through a land acknowledgement statement and then perhaps a flag, that those could be ways that tribal students and all students in the public schools could feel reminded of that indigenous presence here. Thanks.
I just wanted to offer that I hate how formal this is, because it feels we all know each other now. It feels like we could be a lot more casual, but just the process of these meetings kind of makes us do this back and forth business. But I have been, every time I see this list of accomplishments, I am so proud of all of the folks who have been involved. And I'm so proud to be a part of this community, because I feel like the interest was there, and the curiosity was there, and certainly the love and kindness was there. And we just needed sort of a framework to sort of bring it all together. And so I'm very grateful to the administration for being so committed to that process, but also just the time that you guys have spent and the meetings, and I just feel like we, the grown-ups in Mashpee, are starting to work the way our kids in the schools work, which is just with each other and shared interests, and just pursuing the things that we have in common, and working on the things that we don't. And so I think I'm just so happy, and I just had to say that. Sorry, Chairman.
No, I'm good. Anybody else have any comments?
I think Nicole said it all.
Yeah, she did.
I do love that flag idea, though.
Yeah, that flag's good.
That's
That's
a great idea.
We're good at raising flags.
Yeah.
We know how to do that.
All right, so the next item we can talk about is the illustrious student representative, Skylar Rimple.
My favorite part of every meeting.
Yes.
So, good evening.
Let's get you on
Oh, gotta get the mic.
Good evening. So, at Mashpee High School, we did a service project to collect stuffed animals for Boston Children's Hospital, and we ended up with 73 stuffed animals, a total of 47 from the school action club at Community Connections Incorporated in Mashpee, and from the school committee, and 26 from the Mashpee Kiwanis. And I'll be bringing up the bears with my father to Boston Children's Hospital most likely this Friday. The National Junior Honor Society had their induction on May 23rd, and it was an induction for middle school students who fit the criteria of leadership, character, citizenship, scholarship, and service. And through candlelighting, award giving, and speeches, the National Junior Honor Society was much more unified by the end of it. And in addition to that, the National Technical Honor Society also had their induction last month, And students were selected not only because of their academic success, but that in partnership to their excellence in the STEM fields, being science, technology, engineering, and math, whether it be robotics or tech and engineering or other technology-based classes at MMHS. The biology MCAS was this week, yesterday and today, for 9th and 10th grade students, and we've been prepared by our teachers all year and feel confident in our work. The zoo field trip to Southwick Zoo is on June 17th, and that's going to be very fun for all of the freshman classes and the biology students in 10th grade. There's a class at Mashpee Middle High School that focuses on early childhood development, and those students read to younger students at Casey Coombs School on Friday, May 31st. The Project 351 reunion and summit was also in May, and the service that we ended up doing was for Fresh Truck. That was the group that I had, which is an on-the-go grocery store reaching people who can't go out and buy groceries in Massachusetts. And it's like a painted and refrigerated school bus kind of design, and it has fresh vegetables and fresh fruits all inside of it that people go into. And so what we did was make donation packs for elderly in the Boston area of chapsticks, recipes, lotions, mints, and a handmade card and other items. And so on that Friday in May, we prepared for the 8th graders to come, and we heard from guest speakers, and it was held at Gillette Stadium and Patriots Place, so it was a really awesome experience. So Martin Richard, he was an 8-year-old boy who was killed in the Boston Marathon bombing, and he would have been in my grade this year if he was still with us. And so his family is opening up a park in Boston that's going to be all accessible for wheelchairs and open to the public. And myself and other Project 351 alumni will be there on June 15th to open the park. The Mashpee High School graduation and senior week has been a big topic. So graduation is going to be Saturday, June 8th at 10 a.m. The seniors went to Sky Zone yesterday, and they went to Six Flags today. And tomorrow they'll be having a class barbecue at the Papaneset. They have their Walk of Honor through the Casey Coombs and Quashnet schools on Friday, as well as class day, and they've been having graduation rehearsals all this week. The Mashpee varsity baseball team made state tournament once again this year. They seeded 12 out of 17, and they're set to play Avon at Avon tomorrow, which is the 5th seed. We had Lucas DeHelian, Tyler Theodore, Ashley Kelleher, Xavier Gonzalez, and Cam Kurgo all attend the track state meet, and all representing Mashpee with excellence. The class of 2021, which is the sophomores, had their mini golf event, which is the first time they'd ever done that, on Friday, May 31st in the Mashpee Commons mini golf course. And it was a great turnout for people of all ages. It was a really good and new idea. It wasn't a typical fundraiser that classes usually do, in which they had bake sales and face painting. For our AP Human Geography classes, we'll be having another Walk for Water, which all donations will be sent to South Sudan to raise money to build a well and provide clean water for the people there after we read the book that's called A Long Walk to Water, which was a true story, and I recommend it to everyone if you haven't read it yet. So that will be June 12th at the Mashpee High School track after school, and you're all invited to come and bring your families and donate if you would like. The Washington, D.C. trip will be Sunday, June 9th to Wednesday, June 12th. It's an annual 8th grade trip happening for more than a decade now, and it's very informational but also very unifying for the 8th grade class every year. And following that will be 8th grade graduation on Monday, June 17th, so they will have academic awards as well as merit awards and other celebrations. And for the other grades, there's their awards night, which is Thursday, June 13th, and they will have the same awards, but just for grades 7, 9, 10, and 11 from each department in the school, as well as other special acknowledgments. Spring Sports Night is tomorrow, June 6th, which typically recognizes South Shore League All-Stars from varsity teams, and the younger teams, as well as JV and varsity teams, do their awards there if they would like to. We have our final exams next week to finish off the school year academically with success. The Kiwanis Gratitude Dinner with the Builders, Key Club, and K-Kids, with Miss T's Builders Club at the high school, Miss McKay's K-Kids at Quashnet School, and the Mashpee Kiwanis Club came together on May 21st for a night of food and service. 12 seniors received scholarships from the generous people of Southport at what they called their Possibilities Dinner on May 17th, and this was a great night of success and community building. And to go the night before that, May 16th, they had their Mashpee High School Scholarship Awards Night, which was a celebratory night for the class of 2019 seniors, in which they were recognized for their accomplishments and their scholarships were presented to their class and to the rest of the community. I had an interview with Julian Sear, who is the senator for the Cape and Islands, on May 15th, which was produced by Mashpee TV, and we talked about the state's May budget, which includes finances for mental health and sustainability implications, which we are very excited about. The South Shore League Scholar Athlete Awards recipients this year from Mashpee were Nick Story and Cassie Baker, both seniors, which is a very honorable achievement for both of these student athletes who represent Mashpee very well all across the South Shore League in all of their sports. The first Bob Poland alumni baseball game had current players versus 18 former graduates who participated in the program from 2002 to 2018, and they plan to make it an annual tradition over Memorial Day weekend. The senior class gift this year will be a pink Coosa dogwood tree with a brass sign that states New Beginnings, and it will bloom star-shaped pink flowers every graduation season. And so on behalf of Mashpee Middle High School, we wanted to say thank you for your years of dedication and hard work to our retiring teachers, investment in the students, and passion, which helps to exemplify the values that Mashpee resembles. And to some of the teachers that we won't be seeing next year that aren't retiring, we are also very sad to see them go, but we are very thankful for what they've done for us in our community, and just how much Mashpee teachers have encouraged and supported me daily, so I had to add that in there as well. And I wanted to close by recognizing that this meeting marks the end of my first year of being the student liaison to the school committee, and I am beyond grateful for this opportunity to be here with you all once a month and to be the voice of the students at the high school and to get answers to questions we wouldn't have previously had the chance to ask. And so I'm very excited for the next 3 years and to see how many service projects, interviews, and new discoveries we will all be involved in together.
Awesome.
Every time I hear her monthly list of accomplishments, I want to look at every other school on Cape and go, so what'd your students do?
Yeah, right? Uh-huh. That's a drop the mic one.
Exactly. To a Mashpee.
Yeah.
So the next item on the agenda is a discussion about the annual family opinion survey. I'll turn it over to. Okay.
If anyone sitting out there would like a copy, I just want a copy of that.
I also apologize for not acknowledging Pat Montesi. Were you there before? Okay, because I feel bad if I miss her. So she is a ELL tutor at the high school, so she helps students who come into the district who are non-English speaking. So thank you, Pat. So in front of you, you have the data collected in our second annual Family Opinion Survey. They're not shown on here. Were several questions where households could provide a narrative, and so those are being collected to land with each of the school principals for any actions that we want to do to make sure if it's a concern, we want to address it. If it's an area to highlight, we want to make sure everybody is celebrating those items. So that's not shown on here. And probably ask Nicole to assist with this, but what you see on the first page is the return of surveys, and we have 1,008 households. And so what we've done is combined various combinations. You can have just a student at Coombs. So you see on that list on the first page are all the different combinations a family might have. And then the survey sent, and then the return rate, which I think that's a very substantial return rate in the 40s in most cases. What we did was the electronic survey went out first. There were reminders sent every Friday for about 3 to 4 weeks. And then everyone who hadn't yet responded, they were then sent a paper copy, and then there was about a 3-week period to return the paper copies. All of that data then was entered into a spreadsheet that then was combined with the electronic survey data. Do you want to?
So the things to note here are that this year, there were twice as many people who responded by mail than not. And so that tells me that we need to keep offering that second option for people who, for whatever reason, didn't respond electronically. But also, I just have to point out, one of the reasons I was really keen to start an annual survey and glad that Patty supported it is I hear a lot about, everyone uses statements like, well, all the families think this, or all the families think this, or our students are this, or our students are that. I always have to remind my own friends that there are 1,650 kids in this district, and there are over 1,000 families. I don't even pretend to know a third of those families, okay? And so I think that that's why something like this is important. It gives everybody an opportunity to share their thoughts and information directly with the superintendent. It's all anonymous, so they can be candid, but it also, the other main reason is because we didn't want to have goals as a school committee and not have any meaningful way to measure progress against those goals. So, so I just wanted to add those caveats, and Patty has decided this is going to be an annual occurrence. I think personally we should try to find a way to make it mandatory so that we can get full participation, or, you know, or provide incentives, and that shopping bag may be one of those incentives. But I come from a survey research field originally, so I even offering people just some little incentive usually will give you a nice 10 to 15% bump in response. Right now, we're not doing anything like that. We're just giving them a couple options. So if you have any ideas or suggestions, or we welcome those because we're trying to consistently improve this.
So if you go to the page that has a little 5 at the top, at least I think it does, or ours in the packet, so maybe yours doesn't. It's the one that has mean, highest score, KCC, QS, and MMHS across. Those questions on this chart are the same as we had last year. So we want to have some consistent questions from year to year to measure our growth. And then each year we have some special topic questions as well. So my child feels safe at his or her school. The lower the number, the better, because strongly agree is assigned a 1 value. So you can look at all of the 3 schools, and agree is a 2. My child's bus experience is positive. My child's school teachers communicate curriculum goals. Administrators, staff at my child's school are welcoming. I know where to go for questions. My child's teacher or teachers know and understand my child, and staff is responsive. The next 3 pages take those same 3 questions, but it's by school. So the first one is Coombs, and it shows you last year's number for the same question. So you can see, obviously the lower we get, down to the 1 is what our goal is. So we have almost every area there was an improvement over 2018, and 2019 for I know where to go for questions was an improvement as well, but just it didn't meet the threshold of, I think, a 10% change? Greater than 10? Yeah. Greater than 10. So that's all positive data we collected from comparing this year to last year. The next page is the Quashnet School. Again, all of the numbers, the first 3 are definitely meeting that over 10% threshold for growth. Administrative staff at my child's school are welcoming. That pretty well stayed the same, slightly down. I know where to go for questions went up slightly, but is still very well within what we would consider a good response. And same with the other 2, both declined from the previous year. So that's good data. We need to keep it always going in that direction. The next page is the same data for Mashpee Middle High School, and you'll see that 5 of those descriptors improved from the previous year with the over 10% threshold, and the other 2 also improved, but not over the 10% threshold. So that's good. Then one of the areas of questions, one of the things we did decide this year is we did have a lot of questions. So that's one thing we want to look at moving forward to make it a little bit more concise. But we had 3 areas of questions for this year. Absenteeism was one of them, social emotional needs and supports, and then homework was the third category. So these will be very important for the summer work that the admin team and the other school leaders that will be involved as well, as we try to sort of look at our policies and practices and where we can make improvements. So you see, I'm aware of number of absences my child has had this year, and then the other question, I understand the impact absences have on academic progress, and I would welcome strategies to support attendance. We've talked a lot this year with our families because the state now uses a 10% or greater absentee rate as one of the markers that they use to measure the district's success. And so as we move through the year, we try to continually to remind parents, okay, we're 20 days into the school year. If your child has missed more than 2 days, they're considered chronically absent. So you can break it down to that level. But a lot of times we just really need to personalize it with families and try to figure out some supports in place as to what we can do to not only emphasize the importance of attendance, but to support and help them having their child come to school more often. Anybody have any questions on or comments on that? The next 2 pages in this packet, or 3, were all around homework. So the first one get some information from households about the amount of time their children spend on homework. And for all of this survey, we encourage families or parents who are answering to have a conversation with their child. They're not meant to be left out of this loop on any of the topics. So hopefully that's what does happen in a household. We're not there, but we do advise them to do that. So you can see the amount of time spent on homework at each of the schools. And then the 2 other questions here on homework was whether a parent thinks homework deepens my child's understanding of important ideas, and whether homework helps my child become more excited about a given topic or learning in general. So again, this is going to be great information for us to dive into and figure out where we have to make changes or improvements and those areas in the summer. The last one on homework gave a list of ideas, and we tried to gather family input. Do they think we should give less homework? Should we give clearer instructions for students about homework? Should we set a maximum amount of time my child should work on each assignment? Should we give assignments further in advance of the due date? Should we give students more than 1 day to complete assignments? Should we give parents guidance on how to help with homework and how much help to offer? And then should we offer after-school homework help clubs? So you can see the number of responses that sort of agreed we should do that. So these all represent sort of affirmatives that they agree with whatever the suggestion is. So those are additional data points that we need to work on, basically from the teacher up to the building principal and central office. Do you have any questions on that chart?
I do.
Okay.
Remind me about what these percentages are of. Yes, they don't.
I thought that it represents the number of people who responded who could have responded.
In each school.
Yes. So if I were testing that.
If you responded to this question, 89% of them agreed with give parents guidance on how to help with homework.
That's how I interpret that. We need to look at them. They could check boxes, so they could check all of them if they.
Yeah, these are
so
multiple
felt.
response questions, but I just don't remember what the.
That's how many of the respondents checked that box.
So just to do it as I'm not sure if I could do the quick check of the Coombs families.
Oh, you think it's like 200 or something? Yeah, okay. Hold on.
Tells you the number of people who responded. And then
But
what
you'd
the
have to
percentage
get-
rate was.
I think you'd have to use all
So
three of those
if you got
first numbers.
81%
Yeah.
out of
Okay.
112,
I'm not sure
right,
that
says
comes up.
give
I'm not sure
less
those
homework.
percentages are right, so don't.
We'll have to check on that.
Heavily into it.
Right.
That's almost all of
The next page that looks like all of the different colored wheels, this was where we wanted to start to gather information on social emotional learning. That is a primary focus for us. We have been able to secure several grants to support ways to address the social emotional needs of our students. So the first question was whether a parent felt that social emotional learning is a significant part of my child's overall learning. And I'm happy to see that families do strongly feel that way. My child's social emotional learning needs are addressed in the school setting, and so we have data on that as well, pretty positively. And when concerned about my child's social emotional well-being, I know whom to contact at school. And generally, that's pretty high as well. We would hope it would be. We are lucky, fortunate enough to be very well resourced at each school with counselors and school psychologists. So we are hoping that families do know what's available for their support. The next one as well is on social emotional learning. I know how to access behavioral health services in the community if my child needs them. We do try to make sure we do this wraparound focus. And then I would welcome additional strategies to support my child's social emotional well-being. And that's not as much green, but we are going to work on that to make sure that the tools are available to families. And then this page, these are 2 questions that were on the previous survey as well. Mashpee Public Schools has a positive public image. And the second question is, I understand the role of the Mashpee School Committee. And if you go beyond the pie charts, you'll see sort of more of the data focused on the next one. And it compares 2018 to 19. And so in both cases, well, in the Mashpee Public Schools has a positive public image. We have a slight improvement from 2018. In terms of the strongly agree and agree. And then also, I understand the role of the school committee. That has slightly gone down, but within the range of less than 10%, from a 62.7 to strongly agree and agree to a 61.1. So that will give us information. We have a working group that's focused on outreach and engagement, and so we need to make sure that we do a better job, that we are communicating what we are accomplishing in our school system. So,
What do we think about the jump on both of those questions for the don't know, refuse to?
It's the same exact thing.
You want me to tell you?
Yeah, please.
The first year we did it, these were the first 2 questions. And this year, they were the very last 2 questions.
There you go. So they were surveyed out. Yeah,
That's what we call respondent fatigue.
Okay.
Yeah. But we've talked about not just shortening the questions this year, but also kind of keeping things similarly placed so we can, because we would like to have those 10% we would like to have their answers reflected rather than just refusals, but.
and so like I said, we're gonna, the schools, the teacher staffs have not looked at this information yet. The principals really just got it about a week ago, but it will definitely be a focus of a lot of the work we do this summer, and then the staff will actually get to be much more involved with problem solving around any of the weak areas that we want to make gains in. And any thoughts you have as well are more than welcome to be part of this.
I was just going to say that I hope that I hope that families know that when you write something in, sometimes we don't want to publish those types of responses in a setting like this. But, they name teachers, they name specific problems, they have really specific curriculum ideas. And all of that information is going directly to the administration team so that they can address things and add them. And so I think it's a really neat, direct line to the administration. I see things on Facebook sometimes, questions, and I'm just shocked that no one just picks up the phone and calls the school. These are like some of the most accessible people that I've ever encountered in a very small town. So this, I guess, helps people who are not as inclined to pick up the phone, maybe. And so I hope that you'll help spread the word in your community that this is a really good way to get feedback directly to us and the administration. Or just, are you gonna?
Yeah, any other comments about the Family Public Opinion Survey? Anyone?
No.
All right.
Answered majority of the questions I had, so.
All right. And we're gonna, I will send that right back down. We're gonna stick with the superintendent to go to new business.
hand up.
So I want you all to use one of those because it's color-coded.
Okay. So next things you're gonna talk about new business, and the first is the draft of the Mashpee's Portrait of a Graduate.
And I would really like us to take time so that if you see something that you have a suggested edit on, that happens here, because we're never going to probably get this group together again, and it's really important to me that anything that you see that doesn't make sense. So we are developing, we have our draft portrait of
Never get this group together again.
for this purpose. For this purpose. That's why it was really important for me that we left a little bit of time in this meeting to gather your input at this point. So we had a group of 25 stakeholders, and Roxanne was one of them. We met on 4 different full-day meetings to develop Mashpee's Portrait of a Graduate. And during those meetings, we were basically really trying to look at reforming the public education system. Is basically we were gaining knowledge, whatever skills we think our graduates should have, and we're not trying to focus on preparing students for college, but preparing them for life. And so what happened, there are many districts across the country that are working on their Portrait of a Graduate, and there is a portraitofagraduate.org is a site where many schools have published their finished product. So ours is in draft form, and I have sort of been on the road with this, getting input from various groups, Falcon Friends, the Tribal Partnership, here's some extras. The Tribal Partnership meeting 2 different groups of 11th grade AP classes, the Quashnet School Council so far, all 3 staffs at each of the schools as well. So this is our opportunity for school committee, who really hasn't pondered it as well, and also the Tribal Council to provide any input that you have. And the idea that this, once it's developed, is really going to be a starting point to inform the strategic planning that we're going to engage in next year. We have 1 year left on our current plan, and we want to develop our new plan. And just so you know, too, when this is all done, there'll be a graphic representation of our Portrait of a Graduate. And we had a couple of students on the group as well. What we have as a vision is sort of the silhouette of a graduate with their cap and gown, probably blue would be my preference, and then within the body of this graduate is a younger child with a backpack, so the symbolic of the K-12 experience. And then we also talk about one road leading to a world of opportunities, because all 3 schools are on Old Barnstable Road. That might be woven in as well. And then on a web-based, there'll be posters, but on the web-based version, there would be an icon that goes with, we've developed 5 competencies. And there would be an icon that represents that. When you click on it, it would take you to some of the descriptors that we have. So if you turn to this double-sided, or maybe it's single-sided, looks like this. What you have is in red, those are the 5 competencies this group of 25 individuals developed. And we thought we did a great job, but as we go through these series of edits, they keep getting better. And I'm like, really, we didn't do such a great job with really the word choice is how it came down to language is so important. So we also made every one of the statements, for the most part, an adjective with a noun. That's the format we chose. And we also they are I statements from the perspective of a graduate. So if you are a graduate, you're going to say, I'm a purposeful communicator and collaborator. What you see below that section, and we'll go in this order, although I will share, when I went to the students 2 different times, we tend to not have enough time when we get to the last competency, which is critical thinker and problem solver. And so at their suggestion, they said you should reverse order. So when we did it with all 3 staff, we went up the page. But for this group, we can go down the page. And any word that you have a different idea coming out in your head, we want you to share it with us. In the end, like I told the students or anyone, we don't know which suggested edit will be the final one. As we've gone through it, groups have said, oh, I like that one, and so for the most part, it's probably the one. But for example, express my understanding clearly using a variety of formats, depending on purpose and audience. So far, no edits to that. We also tried to not have them be super long, but they, in some cases, are getting longer. So the second descriptor is embrace my responsibility as a member of the team. This was a student suggestion, became fulfill my responsibilities as a member of a team. But the word fulfill is so much better than embrace. And you can have multiple teams that you're part of, so we like that edit. But if you would like to change that, you're welcome. Any thoughts you have. The next one, actively listen to, honor, and build upon the voices of others. This one also came out of the students, was actively listen to, honor, and build upon the voices and ideas of others. They added the and ideas. Understand that opinions are connected to emotions and experiences. The suggested edit, respect and understand that opinions are connected to emotions and experiences. Generously give and receive feedback. graciously give and receive appropriate feedback. That's been multiple edits that have ended up merging into that one that everybody so far has agreed to. And then interact responsibly online. We had much conversation on this because we really wanted to focus this sort of digital footprint, that social responsibility on a web-based environment. But we're not sure, we want this to sort of stand the test of time, and is that going to, it's an issue, a concern for us, but maybe not as much for our youth, and we didn't want to sort of frame it in. So one of the groups said interact responsibly in all settings. And then I think it was Monday after the staff meetings, interact respectfully and responsibly in all settings, including social media. Because we don't think kids think online like we think online, because they don't probably think texting means online. I don't know if they think that way. But we definitely feel there needs to be sort of a reminder to children to our graduates about social media, because that does stay forever with them. Does anyone have any thoughts about this first competency? And the other piece about this too, in some of the samples we looked at, communicator and collaborator can be separate, but as separate groups were developing their descriptors, there was so much overlap that we ended up merging them so that it made more sense to be merged. And school committee, if you have any suggested edits too, because as a group, they're sort of, Nicole was part of the development team, but other members were not.
The only suggestion I have is on the second to last bullet within that section, if added the word constructive, graciously give and receive appropriate constructive feedback. Sometimes feedback can stray from that. I'll leave it at that.
So, and I don't know which groups we were at. That did come up with some of our previous groups. Part of it, using just appropriate, had to do, if I recall, was you could be giving someone, and I know we think of feedback as sort of an opportunity for growth, but when you think about interactions maybe with someone who's several graduates, you want what they say to be appropriate.
Constructive.
I'm not going to be able to say this right, but I think it was more like if you were commenting on someone's play in a game or something that they did, you want them to choose appropriate. It may not be the level of interaction that you think of it as that more formalized feedback. I don't know which group had that discussion on the words. But we will add that to that, or if that's a suggested edit.
I know sometimes, when we give feedback, sometimes we're more critical, and people don't always receive criticism in the best.
Right.
It's not always well received. How that's worded to kind of just try to, make sure that we're being respectful of the people's feelings and how they receive criticism. Would be my suggestion.
Constructive.
Mr. Chairman, I got it. Absolutely. So on the last one, to your point, online is really kind of an outdated term. And then on the second one, it doesn't really encompass everything that you're trying to reach. And then it seems like, to me, it seems forced by saying including social media, that it seems like it's forced in. So my suggestion would maybe say something along the lines of the digital and real world. Something along that line, maybe use digital world in there. That's something digital and real world. Something along those lines, because that will stand the test of time. I mean, the digital world's not going anywhere. That's a term that should be used for quite a while. But social media seems a little forced in that situation. And that's my own feedback.
Any other comments on the first section?
All right, the next one was engaged citizen. So I take steps that improve the broader community. Became I engage in actions that improve the broader community. Do you like that edit? We like that edit. I embrace local and global diversity. So we have 3 suggested edits. I understand and embrace local and global diversity. I understand and embrace diversity. And I understand and embrace individual, local, and global diversity. The individual piece, from my perspective, is important to be there because we want everybody to be who they want to be, and they don't have to conform with their peers. And I think without that being in there, I don't know that we're not at a stage yet where everybody has the same understanding or definition of diversity, I don't think, with our kids. So that's why we wanted individual to be added in there with the last group that we talked to. Any thoughts on that one? Okay, practice ethical and empathetic behavior. This came from the kids. Consistently practice ethical and empathetic behavior. I thought that was a good fix. Exercise civic responsibilities. Multiple versions very similar to each other. Exercise my civic responsibility. Then it was exercise my civic responsibility with examples, local, state, tribal, and national. Then the same one repeated but adding global. And then it became exercise my civic responsibilities, plural, with the same examples in parentheses. And the last one, exercise civic responsibilities with the same examples. The reason the my went out was someone could decide, well, it's not my civic responsibility to do this or that. And we really don't want that to be where they land. We want them to understand civic responsibilities in multiple areas of where they may encounter. Any thoughts on those edits?
That last one.
Yeah.
The last one.
Like the last one.
Me too.
Okay. Did you have any thoughts on the second bullet? Which one you like on that one? The 3 blue choices?
Oh, the local and global diversity?
Yeah.
I think adding individual makes sense, but,
I like the latter myself.
yeah. The last one?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, down to demonstrate environmental stewardship. The 3 choices of edits: practice conservation efforts and environmental stewardship. That came from the students. Practice environmental conservation and stewardship. That came from Compass, which is a group of teachers and principals, leaders. And then most recently from the staffs, engage in conservation efforts and environmental stewardship.
I like the last one. But also
Do
you
you
want
like
to
the
make
last
sure
one,
they
Scott?
practice.
Go, Scott.
Being involved, engaging.
Practice.
Yeah.
I like the second one. Practice means, sounds more like you're continuing to do it as a form of habit.
And but would you like practice with the last, well, let's see, they're the same, so yeah, okay.
Why can't you do practice conservation
Efforts.
efforts and environmental stewardship?
That's the first one.
That's
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I meant practice conservation. Yeah.
So you generally like the first one,
I'm a fan of the first one, actually.
okay?
That was from the kids?
Stewardship.
Changing it from the black one, yes. Okay. And then this one has had a lot of conversation. Understand historical perspectives of Mashpee and their impact on our community. So the first edit you see, it says, understand historical perspectives of Mashpee and their impact on our community, comma, including the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe. Then the students wrote the second one, which I think is exclusionary the way they had it worded. Understand historical perspectives and their impact on the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe and the Mashpee community implies you're not part of the community, the way I read that. So that's wasn't written right. Then we have understand the varied historical perspectives of Mashpee and their impact on our community, including the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe. Then we have recognize the varied historical perspectives, written exactly the same as the one above. And then the last one was understand the history of Mashpee and its impact on our community, including the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe. So what would you like it to say here?
I kind of like understand the history, but.
It is a tough one.
I mean, I, to be honest with you, don't like any of them. But I wonder if, I understand where they're getting at it. It's putting the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe at the end there
Yeah.
seems like it's an outlier. So I was wondering if you could say, understand the history of Mashpee and the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe and its impact on the community. Just to throw something out there for
Yeah, that's
So
kind of
you
what I
were like,
struggled with,
so
too.
will you understand the history of Mashpee and,
And the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, and its, although its doesn't work, it's grammatically incorrect.
And
but
the
And the impact on
Impact.
the community, or our community, I'm sorry.
Who was it that was it Brian?
Brian, is that his name?
Carol, Brian Carroll?
Yeah.
Yes,
That was there, when we developed this one, we originally had history, and we thought it important to say historical perspectives, because, you know, we'll all walk out of this room and characterize it maybe a little bit differently, and so it was really kind of an acknowledgement of everyone's perspective, I guess, instead of talking about history like it's one note, and kind of.
Well, I don't want to speak for Jeff, but I think because this is what I struggle with, too, reading all these. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Go for it.
It's the ending there, where it's including the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, almost seems
Yeah.
like it's a
Like
side
an
note
add-on or
rather
something like
than.
that, yeah.
I don't know, if because I didn't even really consider the history of Barry or whatever else. But every one of them, as I'm reading them, when they end with including the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, it just kind I know what they mean, and I completely
don't like
understand where
it.
we're going with this, but it just,
Trish has the thought.
yes.
No, I'm just kind of thinking along with you. I mean, I think the struggle is, because the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe is the history of Mashpee.
Yes.
So, I don't know, I can't think of anything right now, but I think.
It's hard to put
Yeah,
into a
I'm
sentence.
not I'm not an English teacher, so I don't know how to word
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
You know,
It's interesting, but
tag
so-
on the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, including the
Sounds
Mashpee
like we're
Wampanoag tribe.
piggybacking.
It sounds like that's where the struggle
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
But, and I think it's because the tribe is, I mean,
Yeah.
it's one and the same, the
Yeah.
history and the
So how to
tribe.
word that
Yeah.
grammatically correct, how do we do that?
Exactly.
I don't know.
But you could have also more recent history that kids are learning as they learn about Mashpee that could trace, something related to the commons, or like, it goes way back, but then there's things since as well. that-
More recent history.
So I want them to have that full gathering of information and understand there's gonna be different perspectives, but we wanna make sure it captures it correctly, because this was really important. And it started when it was part of the group developing Engaged Citizen, wanting to make sure kids understood about the tribe. And when I met with the two 11th grade groups, who didn't necessarily see the part of meeting Wampanoag tribe to be actually listed, and I said, well, we are not where we need to be yet, so it has to be there in some form until down the road when everybody just naturally thinks the same way or inclusively. So they understood that after we talked about, we just can't get it worded right.
For me, on the same note, is that the tribe sequentially precedes the town. The town,
Was incorporated.
changed the name of the town, and kind of the structure of the town changed, by name and organizational structure, throughout history. There was a plantation, there was a district, Mashpee, but the tribe predates all that. So, I feel as though it should be put to the front, and understanding the history of the tribe, and how the town came to be, will, how to word that is what I'm struggling with. Keeping it short and sweet, but then, the effects to the community are kind of on the back end. So, yeah, it does have to change the order of how it's structured, the framework of the sentence.
I think we're all trying to get to the same thing.
Right, so,
We just need an English teacher.
How it started, like you just said, from a plantation. It goes from Mashpee to the district of Mashpee, not even Mashpee. Massively.
So maybe as a group, you all have this, if you can come up with something that you like better, and then same with school committee. We still have, many groups we're gonna take this to, and in the summer is when we hope to finalize it, so we do wanna make sure this one is right, and says what we're trying to get it to say. So, whatever thoughts you wanna share with that would be awesome. The next competency we're calling it resilient me. We haven't landed in a different spot yet with that. So I set personal goals and evaluate my progress in achieving them. And just to point out too, the portrait of a graduate, which is obviously a Mashpee graduate portrait, will filter down. So there will be a version very tightly tied to this, that's the portrait of a Quashnet School graduate, so when they're done. And then same with Coombs. So there are things along the way, like setting personal goals and evaluate my progress in achieving them, we do at every grade level in every classroom. So there are a lot of things that can easily flow down to our lower grades. I possess personal financial literacy and establish financial goals. I did tell the students, not with next year's class, but the following class, it will be a graduation requirement to complete this financial literacy course within Mashpee High School. I maintain meaningful connections with those around me. This was changed by the students who said you can't maintain them if you haven't established them. So establish and maintain meaningful connections with those around me. And then this one's gone through various versions. Cope with life. I cope with life's challenges, strive to be grateful, and maintain a positive attitude. So it was cope with life's challenges, strive to be grateful, and maintain a positive attitude and balance. This came out of actually our partnership meeting. I use strategies to cope with life's challenges, strive to be grateful, and maintain a positive attitude and balance. This is one of those little bit long ones. I use strategies to cope with life's challenges, strive to be grateful, and maintain a balanced lifestyle and positive attitude. That came out with the students, and I love to use strategies to cope because we teach those, and we can teach those, and so that's easy to make sure we provide it. Then it became, I use strategies to cope with life's challenges, maintain a balanced lifestyle, and strive to be grateful and positive. And the last version is, I use strategies to cope with challenges. We took out life's because it could be any kind of challenges. Maintain a balanced lifestyle and strive to be grateful and positive.
Okay, I like that.
Would you like the last one?
I enjoy the brevity.
Okay. I focus on self-improvement and self-advocacy, then no suggested edits. I take initiative and have a strong work ethic. One edit is I take initiative and have a strong work ethic in all undertakings, because we don't want people to just think of employment work as a work ethic area. And then it was I take initiative and demonstrate a strong work ethic in all undertakings, which is such a better word than
Yeah.
have.
I like that
Do you
one.
like the second one? And I make choices that contribute to a healthy and fulfilling life. It was the students who made it a little more personal. I make choices that enable me to live a healthy and fulfilling life. So we like that.
For some of these, I think that for the ones that are about financial literacy and establish financial goals, I think that especially at the high school level, because with the whole focus of trying to prepare them for life and not just for college, like anyone you ask, they're always going to say like, why are we learning geometry and not taxes, and we don't know how to buy a house? Not like that's like the most typical high school statement. So I think that if we're gonna like a graduate should have at least some idea of how to do those kinds of things. And I think on the one that's focused on self-improvement and self-advocacy, I think you can focus on something but not really follow through with it. So I don't think focus is the right word. Maybe engage in or practice, but something greater and more connected than just, something more action-based than just focus on.
Yeah, I can focus on it and just say, no thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, so the fourth competency is empowered knowledge seeker. So I embrace active learning and research. So the suggestions, embrace active learning, take out research, because it actually goes with the fifth bullet down below. And then it was I practice active learning and exploration. That came from the kids. And then practice active learning, I think it came from the staff instead of embrace. Definitely like the word practice. Do you have a preference of those three or one of your own?
Learning and exploration.
I like the middle blue one, exploration.
Yeah,
Middle
me
one,
too.
kids.
That's what I like.
I persevere in scholarly and academic endeavors. I reflect deeply and continuously on my learning. This got changed, I think, Monday. Deeply and continuously is a little bit, I don't know, hard to measure maybe, but I reflect thoughtfully on my learning. So when you ask kids who have submitted any kind of work to provide sort of a self-reflection, we can actually measure and teach them what thoughtfully means versus, yeah, I did okay, or no, good. you know, we can make sure that they're a little bit more engaged in that process. Any thoughts on that one, Scott? Any other thoughts?
No, I like that one better.
I value curiosity and ask questions accordingly. I seek and evaluate information from varied sources. So that implies you research, so we have two choices. Seek and evaluate information from varied resources and actually name it as research in parentheses. Or I research and evaluate information from varied resources. Varied sources. We actually thought seek didn't need to be in there because the actual competency is seeker, empowered knowledge seeker. So the verb, the research and evaluate information from varied sources.
That's the last
good.
one.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the last one in that category, explore and pursue opportunities that help me discover my passions. One is explore opportunities that help me actively pursue my passions, and the other is explore opportunities that help me discover and pursue my passions. And it's definitely better to move pursue later down towards passions because, you know, pursuing opportunities. So you want to explore opportunities that are sort of going to guide you. What do you think of those edits? Do you have a preference?
Like to discover.
Discover.
Discover, okay. And then the last competency, critical thinker and problem solver. I plan strategically how to approach a project or problem. They just flipped the adverb in front of the verb to strategically plan. What do you think of that? Okay.
They did that in a couple of places.
Yes. I apply my knowledge, experience, and creativity to generate innovative ideas. It was important that somewhere in our portrait we had the word creativity and innovate, because that really is a strong focus of wanting to create graduates who are able to innovate and also demonstrate creativity.
Can I back up a second?
Sure.
Is it okay, do we really need to strategically plan how to approach? Can we just strategically approach a problem? It seems redundant to strategically plan how to approach something, yeah.
Part of me thinks the word plan is important in there to sort of send that message that developing a plan maybe as an extra step, I don't know. What do you think?
Strategically plan an approach,
Or strategically plan how to solve a project, I know, okay.
a project.
Yeah. I don't want to split hairs.
A problem. Also, manage. I don't know if that's appropriate.
Manage might work its way in there somehow. We'll look at that one. Okay, so the next one had no edits yet. Reason effectively to make sound judgments and decisions. No edits. And then embrace the thoughts and perspectives of others. One group said, I am open-minded about the thoughts and perspectives of others. Then it became, I embrace the thoughts, perspectives, and lifestyles of others. And then the third choice is respect the thoughts and perspectives of others. Lifestyles was relocated into one of the other ones. I forget where, communication. Oh, communicator, it's up there. So any thoughts on those three?
I kind of like to embrace the
I like the
thoughts.
third.
I like the respect.
Yeah, okay.
You don't necessarily have to embrace it.
No,
You just have to
Right.
respect each other.
okay. Then I take risks, fail, learn from mistakes, and remain resilient. One group, I take appropriate risks, fail, learn from my mistakes, and remain resilient. That's important. I forget what that, I think that was our tribal group that had that one. Then take appropriate risks, fail, and learn from my mistakes was from one of the AP groups. They didn't want the resilient in there. Then take appropriate risks, learn from my mistakes, and remain resilient. That one took out fail, and that definitely was another group of AP students. They don't like that word. But the adults who have relooked at this felt that we landed with take appropriate risks, learn from my mistakes/failures, and remain resilient. There was conversation that it feels different when you say failure as sort of this finite thing, which you may have multiples of, but fail seems just so much more like overwhelming as a verb. So that's kind of how we landed there. Any thoughts on that one?
I don't think you need to fail to learn from your mistakes either.
You don't think what?
I don't think you have to fail to learn from a mistake or be able to.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I think the word mistake says enough.
Yeah.
You know, to add fail.
Yeah, but why are you thinking the fourth one is all right? Because the word failure is there.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Are you okay with that?
Yes.
And then the last descriptor is adapt to change. I adapt to change and am flexible in my thinking. Became I am flexible in my thinking and can adapt to change. And also I can adapt to change and be flexible in my thinking.
Can adapt.
Can adapt to change and be flexible in my thinking.
Yeah, I like that one.
Mm-hmm.
The second one.
Sure.
Yes.
But you all have this, so if you're, bored at 2 in the morning and you want to do this, if something comes to your mind, just shoot me an email because we're going to continue to collect. I have several other groups I'm going to, and this is also going to go out to parents. We had parents on the 25-member team, but I still want to put it out to the
I'll send
general
this to you at 2
population
o'clock instead of the chicken.
parents. So that's just a more outdated. I think that completes the draft portrait of the graduate.
All right, any
Well,
final
thank you.
comments on draft
Thank
portrait of the
you.
graduate?
Thanks for sharing any thoughts
Yeah,
you
thank
had
you
as
for the
well.
collaboration.
I want it to make sense.
I assume we're sticking with you for the biliteracy seal?
Actually, we're going to ask Hope to talk about, or will we have representatives for the biliteracy. And Jen did touch base on it, but we had also planned to discuss it, so.
Yeah, I'm sorry that it's, thank you for staying.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Skylar. Great job.
Great job.
So, I'm gonna
They go to
ask
church for me.
Mr.
They
Rumberger
go to
and
church.
Mrs. Fina and Ms. Bessie to, Mr. Rumberger, if you wanna come up and just be able to answer questions. This, no, he's still there. Yeah, this is a, we wanted to bring in front of you this idea that the World Languages Committee, the World Languages Department, the English Language Education Department, and the Reclamation Project, we all met together about a month ago, but the World Languages, everyone sort of has been working on this individually, and we all came together. So we are excited to move forward with the Seal of Biliteracy. You have in your packet 2 little slides about what it is. But I thought Mr. Rumberger and his crew could talk about it much better than I. So this is for the TV. Oh, it's not going to like, amplify you, it just goes to the TV. No.
Tim Rumberger, World Language Department Chair, Mashpee Middle High School, and public schools. Just wanted to first of all say what an honor it is to work with the Mashpee Language Reclamation Project and also the tribal community on reestablishing the Wampanoag language. It's the right thing to do. It's the heritage of our students. We're hoping to help our students reconnect with that rich heritage through their language. In one of our many discussions, Jen and I had talked about the seal of biliteracy. I said our department is investigating implementing this. She said, well, and Mashpee Wampanoag Language Reclamation Project is working on it too. So, hey, we're speaking the same language. So we really are on the same page with that. And what is the seal? The seal is an official acknowledgement that a student has reached proficiency in both English and another language, whether it's Wampanoag, whether it's Spanish, Mandarin, or French. And also on behalf of our ELL students, if it's a student who speaks another language at home and has proven proficiency in that language plus English, they can also receive the seal. So it's acknowledgement of student population that needs support and can receive a boost from getting that thumbs up. The seal is, as I said, it's a stamp on a diploma. How do you get it? How does the student get it? Proficient or above on the MCAS test, ELA, MCAS grade 10. Also a designation of intermediate high or above on an approved, Department of Education, DESE approved assessment instrument, which we piloted, just finished piloting today, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But on the assessment, basically there are 3 levels of proficiency on the American Council of Teaching and Foreign Languages full scale. There's novice, intermediate, and advanced. If a student is at intermediate high, not quite too advanced, or above, then they would be eligible for the seal. So that's the process. There are two assessments that are approved by the ESE to help students achieve this designation of proficiency in another language. And we've just piloted one of them called the Apple. I won't go into what AAPPLL stands for, but it's one measure. And my understanding is through WLRP and through their association with MIT, there's an assessment that they have been working on to do the same, which is awesome. We wouldn't be here talking about this if it weren't for the efforts of Kelly Fina, who brought this to my attention, I think, 3 years ago when I became the World Language Department Chair, and also through our ELL department. I'm going to pass the microphone to either one of them who wants to jump in, because I'm sure there are huge gaps and probably questions that you have.
You did. Notwithstanding.
Oh, come on, I gotta get one. My students would also.
And I would say too, we're really here to just present our work to you and to give you the heads up that we're going to go for this designation. We're very excited about it, and really thank you for coming tonight, but the chance for you to ask questions of the folks who've been working on this for multiple years now, so.
Can you define what go for this designation means?
So we have to apply for it to the, to DESE, and it's just a letter of intent that says we will abide by the regulations that they've set out for the seal of biliteracy, which includes, nobody needs to hear me, includes the proficiency measures that Mr. Rumberger discussed, along with the no cost to students, but there's some logistical pieces, and we had already budgeted for this assessment to be available for all of our students. The WLRP also has, that's part of what you're doing for your grant as well. So we're just going to write a letter of intent that tells them that we want to do this, and then we'll be able to put the seal on starting in 1920 for kids graduating in 1920.
2020?
In 1920, yeah, school year 1920. Not 1920, like the roaring 20s. I know, right? So, and one of the biggest pieces for me, just from an equity perspective, is for our English learners who are fluent in their whatever their home language is, demonstrating our absolute commitment and pride in what that takes to become proficient in English on top of whatever their home language is. We are so excited about that, and we already are anticipating that there are several students who fall into that category who will be able to get this seal as well. So I want to cry a little because it makes me so excited.
There was a study group for a course that some of our ELL staff and world language staff took. Kelly, you or could you, Pat, speak to that a little bit, because I wasn't part of that group, but they did a lot of work to make this a reality. Here we go.
We did, it was the Sheltered English Immersion, the PDP certification, yes, some of us had done. And part of the requirements for that workshop course was to do a capstone. And so we were kind of just discussing what might be good ideas for a project for that, and it was a suggestion, I think, from Ellie said, hey, remember that seal of biliteracy thing? And I'm like, yes, I've been talking about this for years. And so we kind of decided to use that opportunity as a way to kind of push it forward. And so here we are.
I just want to say that for the ESL children that we have, it's a celebration with the parents that we acknowledge their language, their native language. So trying to be culturally aware, I think it's just wonderful.
Do you want to add anything?
Sure, I was just going to add that our WLRP linguists have worked with ACTFL ratings for many years at this point. So our entire teaching team is rated on the ACTFL scale twice a year. So Natana and Jesse administer written and oral proficiency exams. And so we can tell you the ACTFL rating from novice to intermediate to advanced to superior or distinguished of all 7 of our teachers, including our non-paid community teachers, so folks who live in the Boston area or on the Vineyard or other parts of the state where Wampanoag language courses are offered. So we're working with material from Jesse and Natana to adapt that for our high school students, so that they'll be administered a written exam and an oral proficiency exam. And then for children who are pre-literate, we use a tool called the Early Language Listening and Oral Proficiency Assessment, which is kind of a game-based interview tool. So even the 3 and 4-year-olds in our immersion school and the kindergarten and elementary students we work with at Coombs, we can kind of ballpark their proficiency level based on a junior ACTFL score that's just on oral and listening and sort of a working knowledge of grammar, basically.
Last but not least, what's in it for our students? Acknowledging and reconnecting with Native culture for our Native students taking Wampanoag, acknowledging the language skills of our ELL students and our students who take French, Spanish, and Mandarin, but great for college applications, employability. Kelly passed along an article today that said 66% of employers who were surveyed said that they would pick somebody with the seal of biliteracy over somebody who did not have it as a candidate for a position. So lots of wins for all of us. Sorry, one last bad pun.
Any other questions for the group?
I was just curious, and I don't want to move off the language road, because I understand why it's important in this group, but are there any other seals, academic seals? Like the DESI?
Not that I know of. I mean,
Curious. It's the first time I've heard of this. so
that
I'm just
goes on the,
interested,
that go on the diploma.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the only one I know of.
Oh, interesting.
I don't want to give an exhaustive answer without doing
No,
more
you did.
research. But of my knowledge, yes, that's it.
I believe you're right.
And it's pretty new. I mean, they piloted it maybe 3 years ago. Kelly, you know this one.
For Massachusetts, it's new.
New, in Massachusetts.
We're the
I think-
36th state to adopt it, so it's been going on in a while, for a while in the nation, but.
So this is the first, this was the first year of non-pilots going for the seal, and will be in the second year. So we don't want to miss this opportunity. So thank you for all your work.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for sticking around.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go back to Patty.
So just a quick reminder, graduation is Saturday, begins at 10 o'clock. Anyone that is planning to come, I think 9:30 is a great time to arrive. And it is really a wonderful event, so if you've not been, I really strongly encourage you to attend. And then the next item is the Katuitt Kettleers on June 19th. This is new for them this year. They are trying to do a focus on celebrating scholars and teachers. And so this is the first of hopefully what will be an annual celebration. This is technically closest to the last day of school. Right before their game, whoever they're playing that night, from 4:15 to basically 5:15, they'll be celebrating the graduates of Mashpee, Sandwich, and Barnstable, the 3 surrounding communities, as well as retirees from all 3 districts. So anyone who would like to attend that really should plan to be there. It would be a great event. And then we have the community picnic on July 1st, so this is, I guess, more directed at school committee as to who's going to attend. Are we offering any food item, because I have to do a Board of Health form, and we just need to coordinate. So I'll have Gail reach out to you to coordinate who's going to be there with our tent, all of that good stuff.
Mark says he's a strong maybe, so we probably will be doing ice cream.
Okay, well, we have some other things we can. We have 2 tuition waivers, and I know it's very late in the year, and so technically we don't probably need them, but following consistently throughout the year, there is a student, KS, who would like to continue in grade 3. They are currently planning to move to another location within Mashpee and would like to remain here for the balance of this year. And the other student is it SH? HC. This is also a student at the Quashnet School, and they would like to remain for the remainder of the year.
So I move to accept tuition, or to, what's the verb?
Grant.
Grant
tuition
tuition
waiver.
waivers for KS in grade 3 and HC in grade 3.
Second?
Taking a motion by Nicole and a second by Chris. Any discussion? Right, Chris, how do you vote?
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
And the letters to those families will make sure we include information about school choice, which is actually open now for the first month's period.
Will that pass unanimous? That's nice.
Right. Okay, so adoption of the elementary ELA program, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Hansel.
I don't know if the curriculum
Can we
subcommittee
do the
wants to.
subcommittee real quick?
Yeah, because that's, I was figuring.
That's right.
I'll listen.
You sure?
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, geez. So the curriculum subcommittee met, was that 2 weeks ago? Or doesn't make any difference. We met with the superintendent, the assistant superintendent to discuss the changes to the, potential change to the ELA curriculum and the results of the pilot. And you piloted Wonder and units of, what was it?
Wonders and units of study.
Units of study. The recommendation from all of the teachers that were in the pilot, I assume the leadership team was Wonders. And the curriculum subcommittee accepted that recommendation. Want to pass that to the remainder of the committee that we recommend approving that curriculum change to Wonders.
So I have one question. My kids are both at Quashnet now, and I feel like ELA has changed at least once in their time. Maybe it was just, like, what did we used to do for ELA, and then we changed it again, and I saw, at least with one of my kids, like a sort of like a struggle. And I guess what I'd like to know is, we switched to Wonders, like, how, is it common to switch ELA curriculums every couple of years, or is it something that we're trying to find the right one and then stick with it, or is it necessary to evolve curriculums kind of constantly? So, just
Sure, that's an easy one.
Yeah.
So in my time at working in Mashpee, we have been using the model curriculum units from the state that were adopted, and I'll look at people who were here longer than I was, but I feel like 5 maybe years ago. Prior to that, I believe Reading Street is the program that was used, and that was for a long time that program was used. So in one of your children's experience, it was probably flipped, but not in the other. Is my guess, just because our kids are in the same grade and my kids only had the one. Is it common? This is a big lift, what we're doing right now. This is an entire 2 years worth of work, studying programs and making the pilots and going through the data collection and analysis and all of that. That does not happen that frequently, I would say. I mean, it's a big commitment. What this came out of, though, was the data analysis of our MCAS scores and of our writing and of our consistency across grade levels that we did last year, sort of my first year in, realizing that we had a significant gap in English language arts and we needed to do something. So I would expect, given the rigor that we use to analyze this, these pilots, I would expect that we will not need to make another move for a long time. I'm excited about moving forward with this program if the committee chooses to adopt it. But Mr. Gorman had asked during the curriculum subcommittee, well, what's next? There is a review process for curriculum materials, and it's usually about every 5 years that you look at a content area. You don't change necessarily every 5 years, but you do review. So that's what is next. That's what will come.
And you can clarify that it's K-6?
This Wonders recommendation is K-6 across the board, yeah.
Absolutely.
Here.
No, while you still have the mic.
But you have to ask first.
Dr. Hanscom,
Yes.
could you please speak a little bit on the cost of the switch of the program and the way the cost would break down versus what we have budgeted?
Yeah, so we broke down the costs for both programs, and I guess I should back up. The finance working group had met back when we first started piloting in the fall. After the curriculum subcommittee gave the approval to go ahead with the pilots, those same members happened to be on the finance working group, so we sat down and got approval to, in our budgeting plan, we budgeted $100,000 for the implementation of a new ELA program for FY20. The program for Wonders, and it's a 6-year contract, so the program for Wonders is for 6 years, which includes all materials, online subscriptions, consumables through school year 25-26, is $171,671.35. That 35 cents is important, which includes shipping. That cost can be split over 2 fiscal years. So we can pay the $100,000 in FY20 and the $71,631.35 in FY21, but be able to implement all at once. And there's no additional fee to split it over the 2 fiscal years. And that's why I was making the recommendation to go full K-6, because rolling it out all together means the PD can happen together, which is cheaper, and it means we get consistency much quicker across grade levels and across grade levels and among a grade, I don't know, you know what I'm trying to say, within second grade and second K to 6.
And to clarify a little bit about the money, when we did the assumptions for the budgets, it was originally $200,000 K6, and then we went to $100,000 K3. And now we're going to get it K6 for $171,000. So it's, we didn't bust our budget, and we're going to be able to go next year and continue and do K6 for 6 full years too.
Yeah.
So.
And I thought that we had also decided that we were gonna split the cost over 2 years, regardless of what we did, right?
No.
Oh, really?
No, it was originally, the 2020 budget had $200,000 in it for
Right.
curriculum. K-6 curriculum, which was just an estimate. And then during the budget cycle, one of the things that we cut was $100,000 out of the budget. And then in order to absorb that $100,000 cut, we went from K-6 to K-3. Luckily, after the pilot was in it and we went through and we were able to do everything for the same amount of money. So it's actually a pretty awesome project, so.
Can I just, for a quick second, because publicly, I want to thank the committee for allowing us to do this work, and supporting if you choose to support us moving forward. But I want to thank the teachers who volunteered to pilot this year, because they worked incredibly hard with very little time and resources in place I kept calling them qualitative researchers. They were my free qualitative researchers. And so the teachers and the students who were part of this pilot, we could not have done it without that on-the-ground practice of seeing what worked and what didn't. So thank you, they are the best ever. Oh, yeah, so just for the analysis piece, we used 3 rubrics to analyze the programs, and we also analyzed the programs we've been currently doing as well. The first is from the National Center for Education Evaluation and Regional Assistance, and it's the Ed Reports rubric. So if you're familiar with, it's from the U.S. Department of Education. That was one to analyze pretty much every component of English language arts. There was one piece that we added to this that was not in the rubric, which was looking to see if a program had 2 FERs and 3 FERs. So in other words, during ELA, you're also teaching science and social studies and social emotional competencies, because we don't have enough time to teach all of those things. So we wanted our ELA to do more than just ELA. And so we added that as a component that we looked at. And then the second piece we looked at, which is from NYU, was the culturally responsive curriculum scorecard. And this is a joint effort from the NYU Center for Research on Equity and the Education Justice Research and Organizing Collaborative. And it looked at the texts and the materials from a perspective of the diversity of characters, diversity of authors, representation, so how different groups were represented, social justice orientation, and whether the teacher materials were from a culturally responsive lens. And Wonders came out the highest on that as well. And then the last thing we did, which was actually from my work with Natana last year, was we used the Mashpee Wampanoag Cultural Standards and Values. So the standards of community, corn, beans, and squash, harvest, deer, in the house, animals, planting and herring, and fishing, and then the values of respect, honesty, compassion, humility, bravery, and gratitude. So we took those standards and values and overlaid them on our analysis of the programs. And again, Wonders had the closest connection to all of this. So we were really excited about that piece, and I will always be grateful to Matana for sharing those with me. Last year, she mentioned them, and then I like stalked her. I was like, that's amazing, I love it. And she very graciously did, so I want to make sure that is, that she gets the credit for that. So, yeah, that was our process. So it looks in our policy manual, the school committee would vote to adopt a new substantive change in curriculum, and that's what this would encompass. So, thanks.
So I just want to say, I was on the subcommittee for curriculum, and ultimately, it's all about the student, what we feel is best for the student, but being on the school committee, we're subject to certain information, and we're not in the classroom day to day. So looking at the data that was presented to us, it was overwhelmingly favorable for Wonders. And then obviously with the budget piece, with the number breakdown, that was obviously favorable, which is why Jeff and myself had made the recommendation. And then on top of that, there was the recommendation from the people that are actually in the classrooms doing the work, as well as the administration, was also favoring Wonders. So I think for us it was an easy decision. So that being said, I will make a motion to adopt ELA program change to Wonders for K through 6.
You have a second?
I didn't know if you wanted to, because we're on the committee. Okay, I second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none? How do you vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right, unanimous.
And thank you, Hope.
Oh, thank you.
Everyone
Yes,
else.
thank
Good
you.
stuff.
No, it's a great team.
Very thorough.
I love easy decisions.
I like when you think they are. The work was done well.
All right, let's send these kids to DC.
Oh, yeah, let's send the kids to DC in 2020.
That's it. So the request for the out-of-state trip, June 7th to the 10th of 2020.
Do we need any just?
We probably don't have any discussion about
Yeah,
this, right?
okay.
So do we have a motion to approve the grade 8 field trip to Washington DC, June 7th through 10th, 2020?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Nicole and a second by Chris. Any discussion?
Yes, sir.
No? How do you vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Pass unanimous. All right. So the next is the items the chair did not reasonably know in advance, and I don't know if we want to discuss the school maintenance real quick.
Getting rid of the,
Yeah,
yeah, I
so,
wondered where that comes from.
yeah, so we had some discussions with, and I'll let Patty fill in the gaps. We had discussions with the DPW, if you've probably seen the rust stains on the sidewalks and the walls and such at the high school, which don't just annoy me to no end. And we've been Patty's been working with DPW to determine how we can get that remedied. We can get it fixed, and they can do all the, they've adjusted the sprinklers, and the next step would be to clean the walkways and the walls, which is something that's turning into a broken record, but they don't have enough money to complete that maintenance. So they're requesting that we split the bill. So it totals almost $15,000 for the rust removal on the walkways and rust removal on the building. And they're asking for our share to be $7,500. So I wanted to bring that up. We don't have to vote on it, but it's good to, if we want to have a discussion, and then at some point, maybe when we have the other two members of the committee. I don't know what the deadline is, Patty.
So Kathleen Laurent, the DPW director, would like to do it sooner than later. She would like it to be done prior to when all of the Massachusetts superintendents arrive in Mashpee, which is July 9th. And so her suggestion was to take it out of FY19 funds, which is obviously ending by June 30th. So I believe she has called me to ask me about what the decision was on this, so I do believe she wants it to. She would prefer it to be done soon.
What does Mr. Funk say?
Mr. Funk was leaving it up to you as well. Would be able to financially absorb that. it's part of whatever's in that well there, and they've tried to do filters to get it to stop, and, I mean, the building, this is our 20th graduation, so the building's been probably open 24 years, 25 years, and so we stopped using the sprinklers that are nearest the building to stop it. Like, I don't care if the grass is brown, just stop it, because it's just like this ugly plague. So they had a company come in, this company, who did some test spots that can remove it supposedly 100%. I did ask her if it's like permanent or is it gonna come back. She felt it was permanent if we don't put the sprinklers back on.
And did it work on the test spots?
Yes.
Oh.
So my only discussion is that we didn't get a chance to discuss this in the working group, so this would be, us discussing it. So, me personally, I think it needs to be fixed, and at this point, we have, the ability to pay the $7,500, which is a small amount, and at the end of the day, if we have money that needs to be returned back to the town at the end of the year, then it needs to be that money minus $7,500. That's just my 2 cents. No money pun intended.
I can say something on it. So, obviously, I agree that needs to be done, right? And we can take care of our buildings, but everything look good, feel good, and open up future learning. But my concern with this is, and I know, I would assume you probably share some of the concern is, we're going back almost 3 years. Do you remember the elevator situation where the elevator was broken? And we've seen this coming, every single time we have something that goes wrong with the building, we're continually asked to contribute. And the way we restructured our budget now, we're contributing money to it, we're not giving anything back.
Yeah.
Right, so any money that we don't use goes back into the school choice, so we can use it for further teaching and learning. So I know it's a small amount, I'm glad we have time to sit on this and think about it, because right now I don't know how I'd vote on it. But I'm getting awfully tired of being asked to take money away from our budget and away from teaching and learning to put it back into the buildings, which is not supposed to be our purview. So, glad we're having this discussion. That's my 2 cents on it, and, hopefully we'll have.
And we've had that discussion before, and I agree.
Of course, yeah.
There's certain things where I'm a big person about picking your battles.
Yes.
And right now, it's unfortunate that we weren't having this discussion 2 months ago, so the building's not beautiful for graduation.
And we did have the conversation that the building rental account, which generates funds from outside users, is under the control of the DPW. They tend to use that money when we need carpet replacement at generally the high school or other schools. So whether they use all the 15 to fix that and say we can't do 5 rooms of carpet because we use the money out of that account is a possibility.
What about you, Nicole?
Well, this raises a related issue to me, but, and so forgive the tangent, but I'm just going to bring it up. So these are supposed to be town buildings. I'm of the opinion that if they belong to the town, then the town should be maintaining them. I would certainly be willing to pony up the $7,500 if the town is gonna, if we can be using more of our DPW buildings, our town buildings, for community purposes. And I realize this is not, stick with me. I do not like voting in Christ the King Church. I do not think it is appropriate. I think our community buildings are our school buildings. And so I think if DPW owns them and they want us to help maintain them, then I think the school also should allow those buildings to be used for community purposes. I wish we had a tribal government center where everybody could vote, and a nice parking lot and everything. But Mashpee doesn't have a community center. We don't have a rec center. State law says I have the right to vote in an auditorium that's free of religious messages, crucifixes, statues of Jesus, etc. So I forgive the tangent, but I'm just saying, sure, I think, yeah, let's fix the rust on the building, and then let's use those buildings to hold our public elections, please. That's all I'll say.
Well, before you end that conversation, can I just add something in? In the high school and the Indian education room, I'm the chairwoman, and we also have Patty and Nicole in there, and we've been having an issue with mildew for about over 3 years, maybe 4. and it seems to just kind of get brushed over. And I think that's a major issue, not just with education, but also with their health.
Absolutely.
And I'd rather have the mildew taken care of instead of the rugs, if it has to take place. I think they both should be done because our room hasn't been replaced ever since the school been built also. So if you could just add that to your list of things, then I would definitely advocate when it comes time.
We have several things for that room.
Yes, we do.
I won't go off on my tangent about that room.
I know you won't.
Yeah, because that's a tangent, but I agree
Yes.
100%. My 2-second thing is that should be like a pinnacle, visitable, beautiful place.
Thank
It's like
you.
the first place that you take someone to when they come to the school, but we can talk about that another time.
Yes.
So, and I support making it happen.
Thank
So,
you.
with your collaboration.
Thank you.
Me, personally. All right, so clearly, Mr. Santos is not interested in voting on this issue tonight, so we'll,
But we don't need to vote on it, right?
well, at some point, we're gonna have to expend those funds before the end of June. So we'll essentially have a
We
meeting.
can vote on it.
No, no, we have another meeting.
We can vote on it, just won't make any promises how my vote will go.
When is MASS?
Actually, we have to create.
When is MASS, by the way?
July 9th.
Okay. We have another meeting set
Well,
for the
There would
26th.
be time after that.
We have to
I
propose
personally
that,
don't.
we?
That is
Yeah.
part of what we need to do right
Yeah.
now, if we're gonna do that.
Oh, we will. Let me just finish this one first. It's scary. All right. Well, then if we have that kind of time frame, there's nothing else we can do, because I'm not going to ask for a special meeting to vote on the 3 meetings in a month. So do I have a motion to at least, I need a motion so we can at least have a discussion and a vote to approve or disapprove, paying $7,500 to cost share the cleaning of the Mashpee Middle High School prior for FY19.
You want to do it, or do you want me to do it? You want to be a first or a second?
I'll second.
I'm so moved.
I'll
Do you
second.
approve or disapprove?
No, I moved so that we can put it on the agenda for discussion at the next meeting.
Oh, I think it's.
Oh, that's not what I'm listening to.
Oh, I thought that's what you said.
No, ma'am. I move to approve the expenditure of $7,500.
We're allowed to vote on it, even though it wasn't on the agenda?
Oh, yeah, it's just an item that's the chair did not reasonably know in
Okay.
advance.
I thought we had to put it on the next agenda.
No.
No,
No.
then that's fine. I so moved.
If we could put it on the next agenda by timing, I would do that.
Okay.
So that we have more people here to discuss it and do things. I mean, I wouldn't, to be honest with you, if it was 10,000 or more, or 20,000, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And that doesn't mean that the other 2 gentlemen on the 26th can't bring it up for some kind of rediscussion if necessary.
Yeah, that's fine. I look forward to voting there next fall.
So I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Second, any more discussion on the expenditure of the funds for the Mashpee Middle High School?
No,
None?
no,
Okay, roll call vote. Chris?
No.
yes.
Yes. Okay, motion passes. 2 to 1.
So are you indicating, though, that it would be up for further discussion by the other 2 members at the next meeting?
I'm not indicating that at all, but it's their
Okay.
right to discuss the expenditure of this money at the next meeting.
But we would have already communicated to the town that we were.
They can still
Okay.
discuss.
I am unable to control what they want to discuss about, yeah.
They can discuss it if they want.
All right, so the other item that we did not reasonably know in advance was a special meeting that we need to have to carry over some, we had a meeting canceled on the 22nd. We were able to get as much of our 22nd agenda onto this meeting. We didn't want to keep you guys here till 11 o'clock at night, so we're proposing another meeting on the 26th of June. Would that be at 5:30? I can't remember what it said in the email.
Yeah.
Normal time and place. And I would entertain a motion to have a special meeting on June the 26th to complete the items that were tabled to that meeting at the previous meeting at 4 o'clock, which is a very long-winded comment, but.
Yeah, the motion.
And any other new items?
Exactly. You know, I mean, we don't have to have just the agenda.
Well, we can just, yeah. So I'll move to add a special meeting for June 26th at 5:30 PM at Quashnet School.
A second.
Motion by Chris, second by Nicole. Any discussion? No? Any vote?
Yes.
Yes. All right, unanimous. And the last thing we have is any public comment? Anybody? Anyone? I'm begging. Public comment? So no public comment. Motion for adjournment?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right, adjourned. Thank you.